Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is the Steven Hour, and we are back with another Batman 66 episode review. Today we'll be reviewing the episode, well, Gotham City Birds, Part 2 in the Bookworm's first and only ever outing. Let's get on to it. To recap what we left off, the Bookworm is in town and is planning a big crime wave, but he can't do that unless Batman and Robin have been put out of the way. He's managed to capture Robin and has tied him inside a bell, and at the stroke of 12, well, Robin will essentially be killed. There's your opening credits, and we are back to where we left off. Chief O'Hara manages to catch up with Batman and telling him they've been to the crime scene, but Robin is not there, and so is not the bookmobile. Batman then realizes Robin's been captured, and here you can just see the fear in Batman's eyes if anything happens to Robin. They then try to figure out, well, what's happening, where it could be taken, and using the literary knowledge, courtesy of the plot of the book that's clearly influencing the plot, Batman realized that for whom this bell tolls, it tolls for thee. They need to find the clock tower that Robin's in. And there's only one clock in Gotham City that's called he. The Wayne Memorial Tower that is in honor of Bruce Wayne's father. So I like how we get a bit of continuity there. Realizing that, Batman and Chief O'Hara quickly rush to the clock, manage to get there. Chief O'Hara tries to put some dent in the clock with his gun, but because it's far away, doesn't do anything. Batman then uses an over-elaborate way to prevent, the clock from striking, essentially saving Robin. But Bookworm is not so happy. When all they hear is just a bird tweeting, and clearly no clock, the Bookworm loses his shit and screams. Again, what I always loved about the character is this guy, when he loses it, he loses it with this scream, almost hinting, and this is courtesy of almost a psychological breakdown. Anyway, but he manages to calm himself just in time and realizes that they may have escaped, that they probably might have escaped, but they need to find a way to really deal with Batman and Robin first before pulling off their big caper. Which I admit, what I like about Bookworm, even though he is a villain obsessed with books, and a book will influence his plot, his main motivation is to make sure that the main motivation here is to get rid of Batman and Robin before doing that plot. Obviously knowing it would be safer that way than the latter. Of essentially distracting Batman, then do the plot, which again makes a bit more sense. Then through a certain elaborate way of essentially breaking into Wayne Manor, knocking out both Alfred and Anne Harriet, though he was there at the guise as a person to sell a book, he then knocks Alfred and Anne Harriet out with knockout gas and steals a very rare book from Wayne Manor. Batman, of course, gets a call from Gotham, and of course the first thing that comes to mind is, was anyone hurt? They says, thank goodness no, even though they're alright, need to get their way to this part in Gotham as there's a giant book there. Batman and Robin make their way there, and they get the book open, even though they think they are opening, in actuality it's the Bookworm who's opening it for them, as a trap, and he says, in the words of the poet, curiosity kills the bat. As they make their way inside the book, which is essentially a giant cookbook, they get locked in. And inside, it's pretty much a kitchen, and it's soup. And next thing you know, steam comes out of everywhere. And it turns out it's a trap set by Bookworm to kill Batman. As he said, he found this recipe in the book called How to Steam a Bat. Batman and Robin realize what the Bookworm's up to. He plans to kill them through heat. Essentially, they would pass out and die, which is essentially boiling them alive through steam is a pretty gruesome way to go. And just as they're trying to find their way out, Batman tries to call up Alfred to find a way out, and the police also trying to find their way out, why they're in, to open and get their way in there. So essentially, Batman is unknowingly relying on two groups of people to get him out, the Gotham police and Alfred. Of course, Alfred quickly gets him out there first, and we don't know why, but Bookworm and his assistant have stolen the Batmobile and are making their way to steal for their ultimate caper. The police manage to open up the safe, quickly get in there, but find Batman and Robin are nowhere to be seen, and they believe that they may have died. I like how the first thing the cops do is take off their hats. This just shows how much respect and admiration they've always had for Batman and Robin, which is a good loyalty and a good working relation Batman and Robin have had with the Gotham Police Department. We then find Bookworm and all his henchmen are at the back of essentially a library, specifically behind the wall, which in front is the inside of a vault, which they plan to use the bat beam from the Batmobile to break into the vault and steal all these priceless and rare books and manuscripts. And these are very priceless. And of course, for a villain obsessed with books and essentially anything in literature, this is a perfect caper. Now, just as they use the Batbeam to open the back of the wall, they then start to make their way in. But to their surprise, the people to come out of the wall is Batman and Robin, and essentially plan to duke out with them. And it turns out how they escaped is, well, they may have sealed the walls, but they've left the floor unprotected, which he used to, bring in the steam, and as a result managed to get their way out through there. But they realized, how do they find out where they were going to be? They managed to pick up because of the Batmobile radar, well, essentially through the Batmobile. And essentially they plan to deal with the Bookworm and his crew once and for all. And they deal with the Bookworm and his crew. And of course, Bookworm quickly jumps into a bin. Miss Limpid hides in some kind of, well, a wood cabinet, I guess you would say. And of course, Bookworm tells all the henchmen to hand over their glasses and orders his men to attack. And it's a very, I'll admit, this is a pretty funny fight scene. It's funny. And I like how, essentially, the goons are getting their asses kicked, and as they take down Bookworm, Batman and Robin go to the bin, hit it, basically causing all this noise on the bin, open it up, and Bookworm's knocked out. Again, he is a worm. Bookworm. So I guess the sound vibrations knocked him out. And as they arrest Miss Limpid, Batman tells her she should have learned sooner. Should have learned sooner. Crime does not pay. We then cut to Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson at Police Commissioner Gordon's office, but essentially they're making a donation to the Gotham City Penitentiary, book place, library to help fund that thing. And of course, Bookworm and his goons are making their way out. And just as they're leaving, they meet him just as about to leave. Gordon takes out a book out of Bookworm's hand, and the book is The World's 100 Greatest Crimes. You abandoned child. Is there no hope for you? And I like how Bookworm still thinks he's smart by saying a quote from the poet, but Bruce Wayne corrects him and says it came from another literature thing. And then the last line Bookworm ever says is, this guy is almost smart as Batman. And of course, we then end the episode there and saying next week Batman and Robin will be up against the Riddler. The cast here is pretty alright. The scene Alfred and Aunt Harriet have a pretty fun. Again, it's always fun to see them to have that scene. Alfred helping out Batman literally at the last minute, the death trap is pretty good. And I also like how Gordon and Chief O'Hara, basically all of the, Gotham City Police Department, doing their attempts to help Batman, just shows how much they do care about him. Yeah, and they never leave a man behind. Batman, Robin, Bruce Wayne, and Dick are just their usual selves. But like I said, what's always great about these episodes is their main villain. The Bookworm by Roddy McDowall, absolutely fantastic. And I like how at the end, he doesn't, he essentially is still a little bit smug. He's a bit smug, I will say. He views himself as smart, superior, and the final line of this guy is almost smart as Batman. Like I said, it's a criminal act that the Bookworm never came back. He should have. He's one of the most smartest villains, and I like how Batman and Robin have to use all their literary knowledge to outsmart him. And I also like how his criminal, female accomplice doesn't show any remorse or any guilt for participating in those crimes. No reform from her, which makes her really unique for season 1 villains, like, female accomplices, that is. And just the look of the character, and again, for me, the crime to basically steal all this literature collection, for me, makes sense from a Bookworm's perspective. And also, his whole the majority of his episodes was to get rid of Batman and Robin before taking it. And I like how he is defeated, like with that can scene. It's really fun. It's fun stuff. And for me, Bookworm is just a so fun and great character. Well, Gotham City Burns is for me a really a solid second end to a great two-parter for me. Bookworm, for me, makes these episodes, and I like how, even though it's another villain that's created specifically for the show, and definitely Batman and Robin encountered in the past, I do like to think, and it's mostly through the dialogue, that Robin knows a Bookworm, but he's never met him. Batman has encountered him before, definitely introducing more of the fact that Batman was first, Robin came later. And for me, Bookworm is just a fun villain. He's criminal underrated, he never came back. For me, these are really fun episodes, and I like his caper was pretty much to get, he knows you wanted to steal all this stuff, but he wanted to get rid of Batman first. And of course, he does use plots from books as to, help influence his crimes, but for me, that is so welcomed to a villain who is obsessed with books and literature. For me, the Bookworm was always a fun villain. And I like the design, Roddy McDowall's performance. It's a shame he never came back. And for me, it's one of the most mind-boggling things the series ever did. Create a villain, but never bring him back. And he's not even a villain that you know was meant to be a one-off. For me, it was clear that he was meant to be a minor reoccurring one to cause nuisance. And for me, that's why I like this episode, but also feel sad when it ends, because I know that one of my favorite villains is not going to reappear again. And there we have it, While Gotham City Burns. A really great end to this two-parter, and for me, it's a really fun episode. But of course, we're nearly done with the end of season 1. Let's get to another Riddler eccentric episode in our next video. So until then, tune in for next time for the same Steven hour and the same Steven channel, and so long for now.